You make the most of every single day that you have. Every choice that you make during the day, just try to make really positive choices and eliminate the negative people, places, and things that are in your life. And when you do that, all of a sudden, success will start to come.
Hey, what's up, Customize Your Life community? We are in Kansas City, Missouri today. We are with Micah and Diana Lacerte. We're so excited to bring them to you, their life, their story, and really just how they've customized it according to their value system. So when I met you, Micah, it's been over a decade.
It's crazy.
Like over 10 years. I mean,
wow,
that makes
we're
me
old.
feel, yeah. but I mean, you were living in an attic apartment.
Mainly an attic, not really an apartment, but
Yeah.
it was an attic.
It was tiny,
It was tiny.
but it was a bachelor pad, I guess,
was, yeah.
and then, but when you met Diana, you guys moved in together. I visited.
In the attic?
Yes.
You want to come live in the attic? Okay. I'm in.
Money. It's exactly what I wished for.
Well, I came to visit you guys and you made me protein pancakes.
Yeah.
And you were personal training clients out of a gym that was just a couple steps away from your home. And it was just a very humble start to everything. But meanwhile, you had this tremendous vision for your future and what you were going to really create and customize together. And I want the viewers to hear what that looked like for you as you were crafting that vision. Because in order to customize your life, you have to start with a vision, and then you have to have a game plan, and then you got to take massive action towards it, right? So talk to us a little bit about your humble beginnings and how this evolved.
So a lot of the idea and the vision came about by literally being through a lot of systems that weren't doing it the way that I felt it should be done. And what I mean by that is from the moment that you get a certification as a personal trainer, they're teaching you to retain clients for long extended periods of time. So from a business model standpoint, that makes perfect sense. If I can keep you as long as possible, then there's less risk. But my whole deal is I want to wake up and transform as many people's lives as possible. Not worry about the retention side, but literally teach them from what to eat, how to train, making better choices to become a better version of themselves. And so through working at different gyms, working as an independent trainer, it literally just was trial and error of what's right and what's wrong, and then learning the transformation process, taking that leap of faith of starting this thing that we hadn't seen anywhere else in the world and going, hey, in the heart of the recession, we're gonna make this happen. You wanna know why? Because right now is the best time to do it. These people need it more than ever. And so we launched it in 2009, and since then it's just been amazing.
Yeah, I had also worked in a lot of corporate environments. So when I met Micah, he had, and his nickname was Hitch. I don't know if we want to tell him where the Hitch came from. It was when the movie, Will Smith's movie Hitch came out. He had introduced some people that ended up getting married. So I only knew of his name as Hitch when we first met. And then one day he signed something Micah, and I'm like, Micah, who the heck is this Micah guy? But anyway, when I met him, which was actually 10 years ago this weekend, we met at a big fitness expo in Las Vegas. MySpace in Las Vegas. True love. But his vision was about transformation. And I had worked in some corporate gyms, and I didn't do well in those systems because it was never about results, and it was never about really digging in there and helping people. It was just like he said, it was about retaining people. And we just wanted to create something that was more of a system of empowerment that really changed people's lives. And there's the physical side of things, but that equipped them with the tools that they would need to carry forward into every other aspect of their life. And so that was the intention of Hitch Fit, was not retain them and keep them as long as you can. Teach them what they need to know so that they can go out into the world and they can do it themselves, and then also cause a ripple effect on the people that are in their lives, whether it's their children or their spouse or their friends or whoever they have an impact on. If we can change them, every person has some kind of ripple effect. So that's how we can ultimately change the world.
One of the main questions that I think viewers, it's really good for them to hear is, when people decide to start a business, okay, great, you have the vision, you start to have a plan, but it's certainly not just going straight up. You know, there's so many ups and downs and turns, and a lot of people, they see the finished product or what they think is a finished product of a business, because to be honest with you, it's never a finished product, you know, but they see what they see or think in their mind is success, and they go, I want that. But could you explain the road of what it looked like in actually becoming successful, and some of the ups and downs and, you know, the different challenges you guys had?
From day one, when we decided, yes, we're doing this, there has not been a day that's gone by in the last decade, because we're about to hit our 10-year, that we have not worked on this business in some way. Every single day, there has been work. Our wedding day,
Wedding day?
every time we go on vacation, there's always something that we're doing. So the beginnings, it was, I mean, I say it was hard, but it was so fun too. It was fun because we had this vision and we had this passion for it. And to be able to build something from the ground up that was completely ours, and we had all control over the choices that we were making, there was something really exciting about that for both of us that fueled us every single day. And there were a lot of challenges. We didn't have any money. We started the gym when the opportunity came for us to open our brick and mortar gym, because we started Hitch Fit online first from a loan from a friend. And then the opportunity came to take over a space and make that the Hitch Fit gym. We had no money. And when I actually moved to Kansas City, I had a lot of debt because I had tried and failed at a business when I lived in Texas. I had about $130,000 of credit card debt when I moved here. And it seemed like a mountain of debt to me. But, and I had people telling me, oh, just file for bankruptcy. But for me, that wasn't an option, because I felt like it was my choices. Like, I got myself into that, and so I was going to work hard and I was going to get myself out of it and pay everything off, which I did. But that's why we lived in that attic. We didn't go out. We worked 50, 60 hours a week training one-on-one clients, and then we'd get home and then we would work on the online side. But with that gym, just taking a step back, we had a client that Micah was training, who the opportunity came up. We're like, how much money are we going to need if we're going to turn this into a Hitch Fit? We crunched numbers, and we were like, well, mastermind mathematician here said $12,000.
We're going to need toilet paper and towels,
a mirror, a couple dumbbells. So he came up with the number $12,000, and we were like, okay,
$12,500.
If we can get $12,500, if we can get that money, then we can turn this into Hitch Fit Gym. So he had a friend, a client, and he was like, we have this opportunity. And he was like, well, how much do you need? Well, we need $12,500. And so he said, he believed in us, believed in the vision, and he said, would it be helpful if I bought $12,500 worth of personal training, and then you guys could just train it off? We were like, yes, that would be very helpful. So by the end of that day, he paid us $12,500 in a PayPal account. I think it took us 2 years of training him, his friends, his people that worked for him, his mother, his fiance, but we worked off the entire amount that we had borrowed, and that was how we were able to start the business. You want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, people always see success as the end result, and what you don't realize is, like, regardless if it's business success or it is, it's your own personal success, whatever it may be, like, transformation has to happen. There's a process, there's phases, there's stages that must happen during that process of transformation. So we treated our business much like we would if we had a child, if we had, a new home, a family, whatever it may be. And I look at it and go, I'm going to invest in this business much like I would my marriage, much like I would a child or whatnot. And I'm going to try to make it just flourish and thrive. And that means every single day, I'm going to stay faithful to that business. through the ups, through the downs. And success is like this, people, like success is all over the place. You want to be like this, but it's not like that all the time, because recessions happen, and uncontrollables happen in their lives day in and day out. And you got to just learn, like I say, you got to just learn how to hit the curveball, because a lot of curveballs are going to come your way. And, some other advice that I would get would just, you make the most of every single day that you have. Every choice that you make during the day, just try to make really positive choices and eliminate the negative people, places, and things that are in your life. And when you do that, all of a sudden success will start to come. You're not going to be a multimillionaire overnight unless you win the lottery, but you're not going to appreciate that the same way as being in there, putting some skin in the game, working hard on something. And then when you get there, everything is just so appreciated. You're just so thankful, and you feel so blessed for what you have. And then at that moment, it's time to give back as much as you can. And that's what we try to do.
And I think that there's something to having to do all of that work too. It's like if something was handed to you so easily, it's like he said, you don't fully appreciate it and enjoy it as when it's something that you really had to work for and be persistent with. And that's the thing, is like, if you're going to start a business and there's things that we teach people they have to do with their bodies. And those same things apply to when you're building a business. So if you're not consistent, it's like if you do a diet for a month and then you go back to how you were eating before, you're not going to be successful with what your physical goals are. Same thing with your business. If there's not consistency with your messaging and with your branding and with just being consistent with us, it's consistent results and just always doing something. You're probably not going to last that long. You have to be persistent, because when there's roadblocks that come up, and they will, and probably the bigger your business is, it's going to happen probably every day for a bigger business. I'd say at least every couple of days something comes up. I mean, we get some good days in there where it's like, okay, everything went well, but there's always those things that come up. And if you let those things stop you and you don't persist through them every single time and learn something and then take that lesson so that you can use it for the future, again, you're going to not be successful for the long term. And my other thing I always say is, you have to show up even on the days that you don't feel like it. Mm-hmm. And that's one of my favorite things to say, because it's not every day that we like, hey, I feel like I can't wait to work all day today, and I can't wait to work on the website today. There's those days, and if you just don't do it, just like with your body, I don't feel like exercising, I don't feel like eating well. If you don't show up, whether it's your business or your body, you're not going to be successful.
Can you take us back to some moments as you're going through this success, as you're painting it, right? Can you take us to some of those key moments where maybe it didn't always look pretty, or there were some redirecting moments or defining moments that took you to that next level of success?
When I look at success, I look at, a lot of your growth comes from struggle. So I think of my favorite athlete of all time. I think of Michael Jordan. And his story is about him not making that high school team. That led him to greatness. And so for us, like, I look back at our from childhood into becoming an adult and then into the business. And while we were in the business, we had a lot of struggle and a lot of adversity. I remember in 2011, it was very cold outside. December in Kansas City is pretty cold. And I get a Facebook message from a cousin. She's like, I'm really sorry about your gym. And I'm like, what? It's in the morning. I'm like, what? And she's like, it's destroyed. And I'm like, so we go down to the gym and I videotape our first reaction.
Oh, no. Oh, my God. Demolished.
Someone at like 2 a.m, a drunk driver decides to do a U-turn in front of our gym and literally drives a Crown Vic 12 feet deep into our gym. And I thought, man, that's a pretty tough car, because he backed out and then rolled out, But our elliptical, our TV, like, everything was absolutely destroyed. And at that point, a lot of people just go into this failure mode. And it was shocking to us, but I also started looking at all the potential positives that could come out of this situation. Number one, no one was hurt. Okay, that was the most important thing. Number two, all of this could be replaced, and so my number one goal at that particular point was, how do we get this thing fixed as quick as possible so that we're back up on our feet? I contacted a whole bunch of our trainers and friends. They came over. At the same time, I kind of sent some videos out to a couple of the news stations. And we got on 2 or 3 of the news stations and got a lot of publicity from it, got a lot of new clients from it. We boarded up where the wall was, cleaned everything up. We went to business the next day. We didn't take one day off from that gym. It was a little cold in there. We had to put the heater up a little bit, but we made it happen. And that's what's, for me, it's like when people think of struggle, they think of just like, oh, that's just so painful. That's so hard. We got to go through that for actual growth.
Yeah, and it's like, how do you respond to those things? Because it's the response to the challenges that's going to determine if you're going to keep moving forward. And how are you going to choose to view it? Are you going to choose to view it as a negative? Pretty much every negative, there's something positive that can come of it. And every single trial that you go through, there's always going to be a lesson. There's always going to be something that maybe you don't see it in that moment, but that's going to be useful to you sometime in the future too. And I think for me, when we're talking about just those challenges, I touched a little earlier on the debt that I had when I first moved to Kansas City and when I met Micah from just really poor. When I started the business in Texas, I had no idea what I was doing. I've always been just a big creative person and dreamer, and let's just do this. And I have no foundation and didn't know it was just foolish choices. But I chose to pay for those foolish choices, and I didn't file for bankruptcy. I decided that these were my choices. I'm going to own them, and I'm going to pay back every single cent that was borrowed. I had borrowed money from my family, so that was lumped in there too. And it was a mountain, and it was one of those things where I was like, okay, I just have to take bite-sized pieces of this, and every single month it was, how much can I pay? How much can I pay? How much can I pay? And it took me 6 years of paying as much as I possibly could every single month, and the day that I finally paid that last payment, it was this huge, it was a feeling of success and accomplishment, and I felt like so glad that I had made that choice and done that, because it also made my credit extremely good because that I had paid all this debt off. And it was literally the next week after I had paid everything off that the opportunity for us came to purchase our dream home, or it came available. And if I had made a different choice those 6 years earlier, if I had chosen to file for bankruptcy, we would not have been in this home. It wouldn't have happened. The credit wouldn't have been there, and we wouldn't have been able to do it. So
Your choices determine your success.
So I just want to grab onto a piece of what you just said, and that's about the house. Because I mean, just being here, this house is amazing. And I remember your beginnings, like I talked about, in the attic, right? And you showed me all around the attic, and like I said, you made me pancakes, and now I'm visiting you here in your dream home. So please share with our viewers how this came about.
That's such an amazing story. And so back in 2009, when we started the business, we lived in that attic. And so we didn't have much. Anytime that we'd go home to see our family, we'd have to drive by this home on our way to the airport. And I remember just telling her all the time, and she'd say the same thing, of pretty much just like, those people are just keeping our house busy, while we're working hard and whatnot. And so, when was that? It was 2014. So 5 years later from that attic to then our dream home. And I'll let her elaborate on the story in general, but it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, well, when we first started driving by here was when we lived in the attic, so that would have been in 2009. And yeah, we would just say, oh man, that's so nice of those people to watch our house. And we'd laugh thinking, there's no way we would ever, how would that ever even be possible? And then, yeah, it was in 2014 and that it came available, and we were like, well, I don't know if we could do this. He likes to look at houses that are for sale. And at first it was like, oh, I don't know, that might be just out of range for us. And then he checked it again like a month later, and the price had gone down a little bit, and we both just kind of stopped and looked at each other and were like, wait, can we do this? And we had bought a little townhome when we were married. We loved our home. We weren't looking, and we're not even, hey, we have to have some big house. That's not really ever been the point for us. So we loved where we were, and we were like, honestly, like if God wants to give us our dream home, then he'll make it happen and he'll open the doors. So we walked in here for that first time, and we were like, whoa, this is amazing. You know, coming from an attic, like this is epic. And so we looked at this home, and it was September of 2014, and a lot of things had to come into place for this to happen, because we would have to sell our home. It would have to be a contingent offer on us selling our home. We weren't sure if they would even accept that offer. Then we actually had to sell our house. And so there was all these pieces, and we honestly just kept praying. And I never prayed, God, please give me this house. That was never the prayer. It was always, your will be done. And if you want us to live in this house, and if this is a testimony that you want us to be able to have, then I know that you'll open all of the doors. So we put our house on the market. I had this feeling of like, I need to go through and really clear it out and just make a lot of space and make it really nice. It went on the market. The next day, some people came in to look at it. We had a full price offer 3 days after our home. Well, they accepted the contingency, and then our home sold for a full price offer 3 days after it was on the market. So it was like, okay, this is happening. Okay, door open here, door open here, door open here. Now, I go to Haiti frequently, so this kind of was another thing that came into play. I was going on a trip to Haiti, and the day that I was coming back, we were supposed to go into the closing meetings the day after I got back. A lot of things can happen if you go to Haiti. You may not make your flight back. You can get stuck. Like, it's not really the most reliable place to go and travel. And I was on the porch at a little townhome, and I was really praying about what do we do, because there was still inspections and there was still things that could fall apart with the deal. So I didn't want to leave Micah home and having to pack everything. But then I was like, well, if the inspections didn't go through and we packed everything up, then what happens there? So I was literally sitting on my porch, and I'm praying about this, and God basically, the message that I got was, why do you still not trust me? And I was like, okay, I'm sorry. Like, you're right. He's like, if I'm giving you this gift, why are you not trusting me? So I went in the living room. I said, we got to rent the pod. We got to pack up the house before I leave and just have everything ready. So I get home, we'll sleep on the floor in a blanket, and we'll get up and go to closing the next day. So I was in a field in Haiti, and someone had some little satellite phone, and they knew I was waiting for a call. He calls me. Inspections had all gone through. Everything was good to go. I go to the airport in Haiti on the day I'm supposed to leave, and I was traveling separate from the team. And my flight was supposed to get back to Kansas City at about 3 or 4. And it was very early in the morning. The lady was very gruff. It's probably early. She hadn't had her coffee or whatever. And she's messing with my ticket, and I'm just standing there quietly. And then she hands it back to me. She's like, I'm changing your flight. And I just looked at her. I was like, okay. She says, if you stay on this flight, you're not going to have time for customs, and you'll miss your connecting flight. So I've changed you to Fort Lauderdale instead of Miami, and so that you have 3 or 4 hours. So it meant that I didn't get back into Kansas City till 8 or 9 at night. But if that lady had not caught that and had not made the change, I would not have made it back to Kansas City, because I would have missed my connecting flight. And I knew this. I felt Holy Spirit was like, gotcha, girl. And I just looked at her and I just said, thank you. And so I got back. We slept on the floor in a blanket. We got up the next morning really early, and everything went through. But it was literally, this house is a God thing, and we cannot take credit for being here, because it was 100% him. Every single door opened to make this a possibility. And then we have been able to use this home, open up the doors to our church family. We have Bible studies here. We've been able to host our family, and just so much really wonderful things have happened in this home. And also, you know, take in a lot of cats too.
Well, at the same time, too, what she didn't mention was in 2014, like a month before this house was going to come to, you know, us being able to purchase it, we had just spent a majority of our capital on our new gym. Mm-hmm. So we didn't have a ton of cash flow there because we spent it on the business. So for all of it to continue to open, it was just a God thing for us to be in this. And so for us, again, like we treat a business, like we treat a marriage, like we treat human beings, it's like we appreciate it and take care of it.
Haiti, I want you to expand upon that, because the way that you shared with me about that has absolutely touched my heart. And I know that our viewers are going to feel the exact same way. So please just walk us through what that's been like for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think for Micah and I, making sure that we were giving back has always been a really important thing. And for us, I know a lot of times I've heard people say, oh, I'll wait till I achieve this certain level of success and then I'll start giving back. But we believe that you start giving back when God tells you to start giving back, even if that's before you're, in your own mind, you've reached a certain level of success. So we had actually started sponsoring some children in Haiti prior to being there. Just through a couple of organizations, my stepmom was really involved with an organization down there called Love in Motion, and that's actually where my father and my stepmom met. So when they were married and stuff, it was like, hey, we'll sponsor some children. And, you know, that was something that we knew that we could do. It was, you know, we were just something we felt we were supposed to be doing. So in 2012, I had the opportunity to actually go in person. And I journal a lot. I write pretty much, you know, all these thoughts going on in my head. And I had actually written in one of my journals, man, wouldn't it be cool if someday we had a school in Haiti that was kind of just like this school that was growing with Hitch Fit, and that we could just really, just be really connected with them. So this first trip I went down, and there's a couple there called Fransley and Julie, and they were running an orphanage, and they had decided that the next step for them was to start a school for the community, because they obviously in a very poor community right outside of Port-au-Prince. And so they were going to start bringing the community children in who couldn't afford to go to school elsewhere, and then offer them education, because in Haiti, education is a privilege. It's not something that you just get. It's you know, it's something very valued. It's something that they really want, because that means a future for them. So I was there and I was like, okay, this is great. Like, I can choose a few more children here that maybe we can sponsor. And he wasn't with me on this trip, and I really had no way of communicating with him at that time. So they were taking the profile pictures for the children, and they kept lining them up, and I was taking pictures and videos so that I could share with people and maybe try to help find sponsors for them. And as the children were coming and coming, I was like, maybe I'll choose 4 or 5. And then it just got to this point where I just was so quiet, and I just could feel this tightness in my chest, because I was like, I can't choose just 4 or 5. How can I choose 4 or 5? And I didn't say anything. I was real quiet. I got in the truck on the way home, and I was praying about this, and I was like, God, what are you asking me to do? Because at that point in time, to try to take on all of these 25 children, in addition to the ones we were already sponsoring, that was a big financial commitment for us. But God was very clear to me. He said, these are your children. And I was like, okay, these are your children. This is your school. Like, you asked for a school. This is your school. So I told the leader, I said, I would like to take them all. And he was like, are you sure? And I said, yeah, I'm supposed to take them all. And so I got home to Kansas City, and he picked me up at the airport, and I was like, I have something to tell you.
We're going to be parents. I'm like, what?
We have a school of children. And his response was, well, I guess we better get some more clients.
Said, we're going to have to put some more work in.
Yep. And so the following year I went back down, and the school had grown, and we were able to take on more children. But it really has been with a business, there's always ups and downs. It's not a steady flow of money every month. There are months that are harder than others, a lot harder financially. But the testimony is that God said, these are your children, and the other message he gave me that day was, if these are my children, then the money that you need to support these children is going to be there. And so I trusted that, and it's 6 years later, and despite the ups and downs that Hitch Fit has gone through, there has never been a month where the money that those kids needed was not there. It has always been there. And so I truly believe that when you give, if God says to give, don't be afraid, because when you give, he will pour out in abundance the blessings you need, and he will provide for that need. So you just don't be afraid of taking that leap of faith.
You guys have been through a lot of adversity. And I think most people, what they do is when they're going through those challenging times in their life, they give up. They think this is the end, and they don't actually realize that that's actually the foundation for really the seeds of growth. And you actually need those adverse times to go through, to actually learn and grow through. But most people kind of have that woe is me mentality, which I get. I've been there. But you guys why don't you just walk us through some of that and some of the things that you've overcome, because you both have incredible stories.
So when it comes to adversity, I look at pretty much the first half of my life, because as a kid, there's so many things that I think are uncontrollable. You're a little baby. You don't have any control of much of anything. I was raised in a home that was just my mother and I. My mom and my dad never got married. I didn't really build a relationship with my father until much later in life. My mom had her struggles. We had our struggles, our ups and downs. My mom married to a man that I really loved at a young age, and unfortunately, he had one huge negative, and he was an alcoholic. The alcoholism, the abuse became so much, he ended up having to go through a divorce. I think from a small age and as a young boy, all I wanted was that male figure. And so that was such a huge impacting thing for me. And it was just like year after year, person after person, another one gone, and another situation where I'm left without what I needed most. And I look back at everything that I went through, and I recall just thinking as a kid, like, why am I having to go through everything that I'm going through? Like, this is so much pain. This is so much difficulty. It wasn't until later in my life that I look back at it, and God has given me a platform to then be able to relate to almost every single type of individual. So around the age of 11, my mom ended up marrying a different guy, and it was just a bad situation. It was a bad choice to begin with, and the marriage didn't last very long, but on the way out, the man tried to commit suicide. So now as a child, I've seen what alcohol does. I've seen now what suicide could potentially do to you. And then my mom dealt with a lot of her issues with pills and depression pills, anxiety pills, anything to kind of cloud it. So I see these three major pillars that are leading to so many negative things. And all I kept thinking was, I'm never going to use any of those three when something goes bad. So I got to figure out a different solution. And that's what it came down to. So it took going through so much struggle and going through so much garbage to then go, okay, I want to eventually customize my life the way that I want it, and I'm going to do it through positive choices and positive things, regardless of what adversity comes my way. And that's essentially what I did. And the hardest part is it's like things. We can eliminate things. There's the addiction, there's all of that. So that can be struggle to some people. For me, it was not. It wasn't things, and it wasn't things, but we had our places, but it was people. People sometimes is the hardest, and sometimes the people that are closest to you are the hardest ones to kind of separate yourself from. So there were some negative people in my life that were literally holding me down, and so I had to separate myself far enough away and then replace those people with people that truly wanted me to succeed, were there to guide me in times of darkness, and I needed someone to, put my head on their shoulder type of individuals. People always say, oh, you went through so much, would you take it all back? I wouldn't take any of it back. I had to go through all that to be in the place that I am now. and to be able to relate to people the way that I can. I know what that feels like. I know what anxiety is. I know what depression is. I know what coming out of the swamp and getting to a place of success. And so I have to appreciate the ups and the downs, and knowing through any of that struggle that I went through that growth was going to happen from it. But from an early age, you don't understand that. You don't understand that, like, all these negative things that keep hitting you, you're just going, man, my life is just not good. My life just sucks. My life is not what I want it to be. But through that, I saw all these choices that were being made by people that literally controlled my life, because their choices then controlled my life for the most part. And I was like, I have to, when I get of age and I can make choices that are going to affect me directly, I got to make choices that are going to lead me in the direction that I want. It's not about offending anyone. It's not about hurting anyone. It literally is about, I no longer want to repeat the pattern that I continued to live in from an early age of that first half of my life. I needed to be the chain breaker. And at that particular point, when I could make the choices on my own that directly impacted my own life, I woke up every single day living in the moment, knowing that every choice that I made either brought me to path A, which is what I saw before, and I would become that, or path B, which would lead me to this unknown area, this area that I only saw glimpses of as a child. And so I made those choices with, obviously, my foundation in Christ, it always being there. And to relay it back, I always wanted this male figure in my life, when all along I had my father. Mm-hmm. He was always there. Mm-hmm. He was always in my ear, even when I turned my back. He never forsaked me. He was always there. Stay straight, stay narrow, stay tight. Big things are going to happen for you. And I had that in my head even when people told me that I would never amount to anything.
So Micah, Diana, thank you guys so much for taking the time to pour into us, pour into our viewers. This has just been awesome. So we love being here with you, and we're just looking forward to everyone getting to hear your story.
Well, we're very thankful for you guys too, and we hope to inspire some people out there. It's such a blessing to be in this opportunity, going through so much of what we did, being here to be able to share our story. What I'll tell you is go for it. Crush the fear and go for it. And customize your life.